Welcome to the Make and Design Podcast. I'm your host, Carina Gardner. On this podcast, we're unraveling the everyday joys and dilemmas of design, making, and business. For makers who want to be designers and for designers who are makers, this is your inside scoop to help you grow your business and bring more creativity to your life. Hey guys, I am here today with Elizabeth Chappell of Quilters Candy. We are going to talk today a little bit about her sewing pattern course. It's amazing, does really phenomenal things. I know a lot of you here are quilters. Those of you who are here who have been wanting to take that to the next level, I'm super excited for you to hear from Elizabeth. Elizabeth, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I think this is going to be fun. Elizabeth and I actually did a podcast together, both on hers and mine, well over a year ago. So if you want to go check those out and listen to those, great. Today, we're going to focus in on her course because it is launching in just a couple of short weeks. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why you decided to do this course?
Yeah, so I entered the quilting world a little bit differently. I first started a business, a monthly subscription box for quilters. And then I was like, I should probably learn how to quilt if I have a business in the quilting world. So I started quilting, and every month we'd get a new pattern to put in the box, and I would make some of these. And I was like, I have ideas to write a pattern. So I went to my computer, pulled up a Word document and wrote it out. And I was like, this is terrible. This is hideous. Like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I tried to study and find mentors, and there was nothing. There was like a blog post here or there about writing quilt patterns, but it was surface, nothing, nothing tangible. So I got in the trenches. I mean, years of paying for different courses, roundabout ways of figuring out how to write a quilt pattern. And I was like, wait a minute, I could teach this. I can help people. And when I very first started, there was a lot of discouragement. People in the industry were like, no, you can't do that. That's a really hard thing to do. And they would hold a lot of the information close and view it as competition. But I also saw some people who were very giving and welcoming and friendly. And I was like, I like that. I want to be the more giving. And I also see a need here. So I created this course.
Yeah, amazing. Now, one of the things that you talk about is learning professional software and talking about industry standard. Will you talk a little bit about that? Because I think the two of us are on the same page length. I don't even know what it is.
I don't either. Now that I'm hearing it,
wavelength. We're on the same page. We're on the same page on this. So will you talk a little bit about what we consider industry standard?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring this up, because there was a conversation on Instagram where someone said, do you need to know how to use Adobe products to have your pattern be at industry standard? And the conversation was very heated, and like, no, you can absolutely have success. So first of all, let's talk about what the word professional means, and I've gone to the dictionary and looked it up, and I don't remember word for word, but basically having an industry standard where if you were to pass a product, let's say paper pattern, along people in the industry, that it's at the same, you're all working with the same thing. So can you write a best-selling quilt pattern and not have it be written in Adobe? Absolutely. However, I have students who have only gotten jobs because they know how to use Adobe. There are certain companies that if they're looking for a ghostwriter or they're looking for someone to work for them, they have to know how to use Adobe. And so at a certain level, to open all the doors of opportunities, you'll need to know how to use Adobe products. And I don't know who decided that Adobe was the standard, maybe because it's, I don't know, top of the line. But if you're doing graphic design, it's Adobe Illustrator. If you're doing writing, it's InDesign. And it is nice because when someone hands you that file, oh, everything's linked. It opens on my computer just right. So there's a purpose for having it. And I do also, I've had some people come to me who've been designing for years and years. And one in particular said, I have in my mind what I want to design, and I can't do it with the software that I'm using. I was like, oh, easy. Send it to me. Adobe Illustrator. I got it. And could create what she wanted in a second. And so it is really the most powerful, robust programming that I'm aware of. Is there a bit of a learning curve? Absolutely. But anything that's worth anything, it's going to be a little bit more time, a little bit more learning.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for those of you listening, because we're talking about design products all the time, I know that there is a wave right now of people wanting to use Affinity. Definitely the old school with Corel Draw. I'm still here to tell you that Affinity, while it is cheaper, there's a reason it's cheaper. It's because it's not powerful enough yet to do what Adobe Illustrator is doing. So if you're looking for vector-based and you're like, what about Affinity? I'm telling you right now, I would just take a step aside until we see it grow as big as Illustrator for Adobe. That being said, now with all the AI tools that Adobe is adding into Illustrator and Photoshop, I still think you're going to be in better shape knowing the Illustrator programs and InDesign, Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop to get you where you need to go. And if you are using Corel Draw, it's time to drop that puppy. Like we're done, guys. So I do think, and especially what Elizabeth is talking about here, which I agree with, I think most people don't realize that it's not just about writing your own sewing patterns, but also the ability to maybe work for a magazine or maybe submit your stuff into a book. Like all of that actually matters if you are going to get bigger in this industry.
Yes. Well, and I do think a lot of people kind of shoot themselves in the foot because at first they're like, just trying to think of how can I do this the cheapest? How can I do it the quickest? And so they go the shorter route, but then as they grow, they're like, oh, dang it, I've got to learn this software now. And they've got their habits. And at a certain point, you cap how much you can grow and what you can do. And so, yeah, if you have the means and all of that to just learn Adobe off the get-go, you're never going to regret it. You're never going to be like, oh, darn it, I know the most robust program. Dang it,
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with that, which brings me to, I would love to talk about like, what do you do in your, because you have a course, you have a sewing pattern course, and you guys are launching in just a couple of weeks. Tell me a little bit about what you do in that course that makes it so unique to what we're trying to accomplish in the industry.
Yeah, well, okay. So right now, quilt pattern writing, it's a little bit like the Wild West, anyone can do anything. And so I'm working with a few people inside the industry who are higher up to try and get some kind of standard of like, let's more for our customers' sake, let's think about the customer who's learning how to quilt. If they're going to go to all these different patterns and they're all completely different, they'll just be like, this is confusing. So we want to bring forth a standard that's clear, concise, kind of like if you're writing a paper, you're doing Chicago style, MLA, that there's a kind of style format to follow, but also a community. It can be very isolating to be a designer where you're at home by yourself, and the fear, so much fear goes into, and I'm sure you see this too, is my design unique enough? Like, what are my legal rights here? So we bring in some guest lawyers and teachers to talk about all the different aspects using Adobe Illustrator and InDesign. And then at the end, having some business tips, because you can have the best pattern in the world, but if you don't have marketing strategies to get it seen, it won't get sold. So yeah.
100%. So amazing. So tell me, how can people get a hold of you if they're really interested in what you're doing? And I know you have some things like before the launch to just, get people in and understanding what you're trying to help them accomplish.
Yeah. So first, if they are podcast listeners, there's the Craft a Career podcast. And that goes into how, lots of free tips to turn your craft into a career. And then my website has a lot of information. So quilterscandy.com. And that's where they can find about the quilt pattern writing course.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll give you guys those links here in the show notes. So make sure and check that out. If you are interested in sewing pattern, I know you guys have heard me talk about sewing patterns. We do have some sewing pattern designers in our program, but we do not focus on it. So I highly recommend, if you are just like, I am sewing pattern only, like, go check out Elizabeth and what she's doing, because it's really phenomenal. They really walk you through a lot of great tips and get you into Adobe Illustrator. You're mostly using Illustrator at this point, right? Is that right? Or InDesign as well?
Both. Yeah. So Illustrator for the graphics and InDesign for the writing. And I'll just say too, if there's a part of you that's like, well, how could I, diversify my income? It's a great way to add income, even if, you're just barely starting out with quilting. If you have desires to go into fabric, it's just fabric companies really like to see that you can write patterns to help promote the fabric sales, and you can create awesome merch and stationery and stuff using your quilt pattern. So it's just one of the little pieces of the pie to bring in a great revenue.
Yeah. And I would say, don't you think at this point, Elizabeth, with fabric manufacturers, it's almost impossible to get a contract unless one, you are extremely unique in your design abilities, or two, you are a quilter and have sewing patterns and have a following.
Absolutely. Which
Yeah.
makes sense. They want someone who can help sell that fabric. And
Yeah. Agreed. Any last tips for people before we go?
yeah, I guess just the idea that there is room enough, and that goes for any kind of creative business or business, but there's room for each of us. We each have our own unique style, look, perspective in the world. And so come on over. There's room for you. I'd love to help you learn how to write your best quilt patterns.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there is more room than people realize. In fact, I think it's the fear that holds so many people back. And the ones who are kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. That's why they're succeeding, because they're just going for it. Most of the time, it's just action, right?
Absolutely.
Total and complete action. I love this so much. You guys go check out, is it quilterscandy.com?
Yep.
Yeah, quilterscandy.com to go see more. If you are interested in this upcoming session, it is coming up soon. So if you're listening to this, 6 months later, kind of wait to see when she'll be launching again. But I know that there's a huge following who are really interested, love to take this class. I have heard of many people taking this class. Actually, people I've talked to recently, someone said that it was so amazing. It was so good. So you guys go check it out if this is an area of focus you're interested in. All right, guys, we'll see you later, and have a great day. Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.